So welcome along to A Story to Tell with me, Richard Beauvoisin. This is mainly taken from my Radio Bath show every Thursday morning from 10 until 12. If you do like it, don't forget to subscribe, share it to others and let everyone know all about Radio Bath. Hope you enjoy it.
Now, my daughter this morning said, can you play some Benson Boone? She did ask for another track, but this is the one we've got. So, there's Sorry I'm Here for Someone Else, Benson Boone. It's Richard Beauvoisin here, right until midday today. Thank you, Benson, for that. My guest today is a hypnotist, and he's dressed, I'm going to say, I don't know how to describe it, David. I know you're not on air at the moment, but we're going to talk about your dress sense very shortly, which will be great fun. But yeah, he's a hypnotist, hypnotherapist as well. We're going to be talking to him right between 10 and 12. If you have any questions for him, then you can text Bath followed by a message to 80011, or you can email studio@radiobath.com. What a great way to start the show. That is Freebird, Leonard Skyard. I think that's the way you say it. Morning, David.
Good morning, Richard.
There you go. You chose that song, didn't you?
I did.
Why did you choose that song, David?
Because it's got a ton of energy and it goes on and on and on.
It does. I think this is the slightly shorter version of it, because I've got a feeling this guitar instrumental's going on for about another 5 minutes yet.
Quite possibly it does.
Yeah. I've been to concerts before where they kind of have the song, and then they do the instrumental part, which then they extend out because they can. And then you've kind of, in the end, you're there going, OK, there's only so long I want to hear this guitar solo for. But yeah, that's a good one.
Good.
That is a good one. Anyway, my guest today, do you ever listen to Desert Island Discs?
I do.
OK, so I've got your Desert Island Discs intro. Are you ready?
I am.
Let's see what happens here. From Saatchi and Saatchi boardrooms to BBC studios, my guest today has lived the kind of high-octane life most of us only glimpse in films, but it nearly cost him his life. 4 heart attacks, major surgery, and now a completely different mission. Here on A Story to Tell... I don't know why I'm doing the radio bit. Here on A Story to Tell is David Chaudoir.
Hello, Richard.
Good morning. And how are you today?
I'm fine. I'm wonderful.
Good. Now, I did mention before about your dress sense.
Yes.
Okay, now, you've come in, nice jacket, a T-shirt. I'm trying to work out the combination of T-shirt and jacket.
Yes.
Can you describe your T-shirt for us?
Yes, I look like a wasp. I'm yellow and black, but I don't have a sting.
You do not? No. And you're in shorts. So it's kind of, I think, the whole combination, I was like, because... the image that I have of you that we've promoted everywhere is, shall we say, uber cool and professional.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the thing is that I exuded that impression of myself when I was working commercially and working for advertising agencies and broadcasters, and now I don't have to anymore. I can look vaguely ridiculous.
No, I didn't say that. I think you've carried off the look.
Yes. Well, I'm dressed for radio, Richard.
That's all right. No, you look great. It's just that I was expecting one person and kind of somebody else turned up. Because I was like, yeah, it was just a surprise to me. Anyway, so just very quickly, introduce who is David Chaudoir.
As you said, I have a rich professional CV in advertising, in broadcast, working for television channels. I used to be the head of design at Fox and National Geographic, and I also used to work for lots of different advertising agencies, very big advertising agencies. I've worked on all kinds of things, from mobile phones to O2 mobile phones for many years. I sort of was right at the early stage, sort of the pioneering stage of social media, when social media advertising was at its birth. I've worked for all the various channels at BBC. I've worked for BBC One, BBC Two, BBC Three, BBC Four. I'm not sure BBC Six, but I'm not even sure that exists anymore. And I basically I loved my job. I loved working, selling things to people effectively as a graphic designer. That's what you do, is you are persuading people, usually to part with money. And although I loved design, I'm not convinced it loved me, because I had a number of heart attacks, open heart surgery, and heart failure. So, I decided it's probably time before I'm sort of taken out in a wooden suit to do something about it. And I write as a hobby, and I've written short films and things like that. And so I wrote, and I won a competition, and I used that the competition win to enroll on a hypnotherapy course. So because I thought I would like to persuade people to change their lives before it's also too late.
Okay. Now, we've discussed off air that I'm quite tired today. I'm pushing myself to my boundaries. Haven't quite got down the heart attack route yet that I'm aware of. But kind of going back to the heart attacks then, kind of what happened and why did it happen, do you think?
Combination of things. I think that in the industries that I worked in, the way that you unwound was to go to the pub. We're talking in the 1990s, because I was in the industry for 35 years. So the way that you blew off steam at the end of the day was to get legless. Yeah. And that's not a great thing to do for your heart. And I think that obviously there are other factors involved, life at home, etc. But for the most part, working in the industry, it's a very precarious industry. I used to direct music videos. I used to direct commercials as well. And it's a very precarious industry. You don't know when your next job is happening. You don't know when you're going to be booked. When you're on holiday, you're always thinking, I hope the phone rings for the next job. So you don't really, if you're self-employed, and you probably know this, you don't really get the time off that you need to recuperate. So I started having heart attacks in 2010, then had another in 2012, and then I've had another 2 more since. And I went to see a consultant after one of these heart attacks, and I said, he said, you need bypass surgery. And I said, okay, can we get it done? I'm just moving to Bath. Can we get it done when I've moved to Bath and settled in? And he said, well, the next time I might see you, you might be in your funeral attire. So it was then that I thought, right, okay, I've got to do something about this. Okay,
so obviously you had the surgery. How did that kind of change your perspective on life then?
When you have triple heart bypass surgery, some people are warned. I wasn't warned. A lot of people say that your life changes in subtle but dramatic ways, and I think a lot of people go through this period in their life where they suddenly reevaluate everything, and they make decisions that perhaps sometimes they regret, or that they wish that they had made earlier on in their life. And it's a very, very subtle effect on you, because you don't wake up after your heart surgery, right, this is what I want to do, I'm gonna I'm gonna become a guardsman or something. And that happened to me, that I had already wanted to move down to Bath. I wanted a change of tempo, but other things happened in my life beyond the professional bit in my personal life. So I think I've heard other people being told, don't make any financial decisions, don't make any personal decisions, just sort of sit with it for a bit. Mm-hmm. But inevitably, change happens.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to my wife yesterday. I'll rephrase that. My wife was talking to me yesterday and saying that I was quite tired in the morning. I'd been working late at night and got up early because, we've got a big event coming up and it's quite an intense period. And she said, whatever you do today, don't make any decisions. Whatever you do, don't give any feedback. I mentor a lot of people.
Right.
And she was absolutely right. And I'll stand by that for today as well.
Right.
And I kind of know in my head, I've got a day of being on the radio more than anything else today, and that's fine because I don't have to make any decisions, just have a chat with you, which is quite nice. Yeah. And the one thing which I'm really noticing is if I go back to the picture that you have, broadcast everywhere, or I've broadcast for yourself, it is one image of kind of that professional, almost high-flying image, but the person I see in front of me is somebody that's, as you say, a much slower pace. That's a positive thing, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've just, since my heart surgery, I've discovered things about myself. I came from quite a conservative with a small C background where only Americans got therapy and took antidepressants, and my mother is, we were watching a program about ADHD, and she was, why does everybody have to have a label these days?
Is she Scottish?
No. She lives in my head. I think I'm sort of channeling Dame Judi Dench rather badly.
It was a lovely impression.
Yes. So I think that you discover things about yourself. Also, I must say, with my ADHD, Richard, you sometimes will have to remind me of the question because I circle round and sometimes I don't quite come back. But the professional look, the profession we were talking about. I was successful at what I did. I won baubles, awards, etc. And I suppose, I think everybody makes an effort for photographs.
Absolutely. I had mine done recently, and they look great. People have said they almost don't recognise me, which is good. We're going to have a break for music. When we come back, we're going to start about your journey into the hypnotherapy world. So back with David shortly. If you have any questions, email studio@radiobath.com. Richard Beauvoisin here, right until midday today on A Story to Tell. David Chaudoir. Had to even work out how to say your name. So how would you say my name then? Because we both have a French surname.
Beauvoisin.
Oh, do you know what? That's how it should be said. Yeah. For many years, I come from Portsmouth originally. And Portsmouth accent is very much like the East End London accent, which isn't the voice I now have. I learned how to speak, I'm going to say properly, about the age of 20 when I was in radio back in those days. Listened to my voice and didn't like it. But yeah, we used to say, and some of my family still say, Beauvoisin. And I was like, that's not quite how it should sound. No. But there we go. Anyway, my guest today, he's a hypnotherapist right now. But we're going to go back a little bit further in time to your creative process and all the work you did with Saatchi and BBC, ITV and that. What was that kind of like being a creative person back then?
I think for anybody who's a creative as a freelancer, you're slightly a performing monkey. You're hired to do a job and you have to do it. So you might be, because I was in graphic design and visual effects, you might have to be working to a storyboard that's been created. You might be doing visual effects on it, like I was working on a Citroen advert that I needed to do, change all the number plates on, something desperately boring and desperately time consuming is change all the number plates on these vehicles which are moving.
So literally every single vehicle that would be moving, you'd have to
track new number plates on.
Okay.
Yeah. So, again, wow. Not terribly interesting, but then there was an aspect to my job where you would be given a clean sheet of paper, make something, to promote this. So let's say when I was working at Fox, we had the program. They had the rights to show The Walking Dead in the UK, and I came up with the idea and directed the promo for The Walking Dead. Somebody leaked it online, and it went. This is way before I fully understood what viral means, but it went viral on, and I got in desperate trouble because they thought that I'd leaked it. But anyway,
did you ever find out who leaked it?
I have a sneaking suspicion.
Okay, but you're not going to name names right now.
No, absolutely. He's now head of Fox in America.
Okay,
so
well, you may have just given that away then. But there you go.
He's head of promotions. But anyway, so I worked at the BBC, I worked at advertising agencies, and for the last couple of years of my working as a graphic designer, I worked on BBC Newsnight, which was wonderful. It's pressure. I wouldn't call it stressful. It's just very high pressured. You've got to turn around animations, whether it's maps, whether it's documents, whether it's explainers explaining a science idea or whatever it is, very, very quickly. You might get the story at 4 p.m. and you're going out on air at 10:30 that night. So it can be extraordinarily pressured, but it was a lot of fun. And we used to very often have fits of giggles and go into laughter at the end of the shift when the show was finally on air. And we used to call it the bends, when you're coming up from that pressure and you've got to have a release. And I made a couple of mistakes, which were vaguely amusing at the time. Well, vaguely amusing now. But I remember doing a graphic. We used to have to do the screens behind the presenter, Kirsty Walk or Victoria Derbyshire or one of the other presenters. And it was a story about, I think it was Egyptian, that they're banning women wearing the niqab in these resorts where Western people go, and I put a hijab on my graphic had the hijab or vice versa, and at the end of the show somebody said, who did the graphic? And then I said I did, put my hand up, and then the producer said, oh shit. So I beg your pardon.
Other words are available to you.
Yes, I beg your pardon. Sorry. Oh blimey. And on another occasion, I was doing an animation. I had to do it in breakneck speed, and I had this map, which was an outline map that you couldn't necessarily see everything. You had to switch these layers on and off, and I put Iran and Iraq, vice versa, in the wrong. Okay. So Iraq was Iran and Iran was Iraq.
And people always notice these things, don't they?
Oh my word, do they notice them?
So I'm just intrigued. I'm dealing a lot with AI at the moment because of a variety of different reasons. I'm guessing this is before AI really was implementing.
Yeah, I mean, right at the very end of my time at Newsnight, I was playing around with imagery of to show you how far back it was images of Boris Johnson getting an AI image creation system to generate pictures of him, and he would have 3 eyes and things like that, and I was putting in things like Boris Johnson as a zombie, seeing what would come back. But
not much difference, but that's a different matter altogether. So you've done all of this creative stuff. That's quite a jump from going creative graphic designer for all these massive companies to becoming a hypnotherapist. What kind of made you think this is the route I want to go down?
I'm not entirely convinced that I thought I'm going to be a hypnotherapist. I fell in love. I was always fascinated. I think everybody has a fascination for hypnotherapy and hypnosis. And we've kind of been sold an image of hypnosis through Hollywood that, people will, put on strange voices, and there'll be swirling sort of Twilight Zone backgrounds behind them, and
dancing around like a chicken.
Absolutely, squawking like a chicken and eating raw onions. And so I was fascinated by it, and I had met some hypnotists, and I won a writing competition, and I won. I then decided I want to use that to do a hypnotherapy course, and the hypnotist that I had met, I signed up to his and his father's course, and his father has hypnotized roughly, they estimate, between 40 and 50,000 people. Wow. And he used to, one of his major things that he used to do, one that he was famous for, was stopping smoking, which is obviously less popular now, but people are vaping. And he used to have a series of people that worked for him. He would take out advertisements in local newspapers, and he would say, all right, I'm coming to Bath on this day, and he had to have a hall full of 500 people, and he would do 500 people in one go.
Okay.
And he's had people come up 30 years later, and STEM's still not smoking.
Yep.
So that I signed up to the Jack Quinn's course. It's Anthony and Freddie Jack Quinn, and it's called the Jack Quinn Hypnosis Academy. There are lots of different academies around. It still is slightly on the fringes, but it's gaining recognition in terms of hypnotherapy as efficacious treatment for lots of different things. And I was fascinated, so I did this course, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And I'd never been hypnotized before, and didn't fully understand the process when I started this course. And I finished the course, and now I'm doing another course to do with it. I find it absolutely fascinating, and I think it's the closest thing to real magic that we have, that you can talk to somebody, that you can get them to relax, you can use words to change somebody's physicality, whether it's IBS, whether it's that you have performance anxiety, you feel you want to be able to give a good speech, or even things like psoriasis, things that you would think are purely biological, or something like that you can actually do the job of medicine by speaking to somebody, and there's no side effects.
No, it's we're going to talk about my journey in the near future, probably in hour 2. Because, yes, I've gone through quite a lot of hypnosis myself for a variety of different reasons, which we will chat about. What we're going to talk about next, though, is, what actually is hypnosis. But before that, you've chosen a Prodigy track. Okay?
I have.
Now, the one we've got on the system is No Good, Start the Dance. And I'll be honest with you, I can't remember how this sounds. Have you any idea what this sounds like? Apart from all Prodigy songs, kind of quite harsh sometimes, shall we say?
They can be.
Yeah, and we're going to find out what it's like. So back with David very shortly. If you have any questions for him, email studio@radiobath.com. Can't believe I'm saying this on Radio Bath, but it's time for some Prodigy. Richard Beauvoisin on a story to tell. My guest today is David Chaudoir. He's a hypnotherapist, hypnotherapist.
I prefer hypnotherapist.
Hypnotherapist, that's fine. We'll go with that. He was in advertising for 30 years or so, working for a variety of different companies. We're now going to go down much more the route of what is hypnotherapy, what is being hypnotised. Now, we have to state very quickly that you're not going to do any hypnosis for anybody, because if they're driving and they go into a trance, that's not ideal, shall we say, or operating heavy machinery. So you don't need to worry about any of that. But first of all, what is being hypnosis like?
But when you are in your... Okay, so here's an analogy for you. Have you ever driven home, and you've got home, you've had meetings or whatever, you're driving home from work and you arrive back home and you have no recollection of the journey that you've just taken.
Many times.
Yes. You've gone through traffic lights, you've braked, you've changed gear, and you've been having a conversation in your head with your work colleagues, or you've been thinking about where you're going that evening. So you have a conscious mind, your executive function. So we call this the conscious, and then we have something called the unconscious, and they are regulated by different parts of your brain. So you have your amygdala, which is at the back of your brain, which regulates your emotions, and we very often learn things with our amygdala. We also can be thinking things, as I said, you are a twin track person. Everybody has an unconscious mind, which is regulating their heartbeat, their digestion. Lots of other functions within you are controlled by the unconscious mind. You don't have to think about walking, you just do it automatically. You learn to drive, and you learn through repetition. And you have your unconscious mind, and you can pick up habits and emotions and things like that. And hypnosis works. It gets you relaxed. You just talk to somebody, they become relaxed, and you do what's called an induction. And your conscious mind, your conversation, your reasoning mind runs on alpha waves. Your brain waves are literally running at one wavelength, and then your relaxed mind works on a different wavelength. Now, okay, what does that look like? When you're reading a book, when you don't see the words anymore, you're in the story, you're in that imaginative world. And that's what hypnotherapy is. It's taking you into the imagination of your world. You get relaxed, you go into an imaginative world. Sometimes you remember what the hypnotherapist is saying, sometimes you don't, and it makes changes. And as I said, it seems incredible that somebody sitting talking to you about a very specific problem. It works best when you're dealing with a specific thing, whether it's forgetfulness, whether it's, especially in ADHD, that people can sort of dysregulation, that something can get you upset very, very quickly. It can slow that process down, and you don't feel any different from the fact that you're listening to somebody. That's all it is, but you feel in a very relaxed state. And the hypnotherapist or hypnotist can talk to you and talk to your body in the most extraordinary ways. And you can, when you learn how to do hypnotherapy, you learn in certain inductions, you can make people raise their hands. Now, you're not making them, you are suggesting things, and it's all about the imagination.
Now, lots of people will be concerned that if they go into trance, is that the correct way of describing it, being in trance?
It's one way of describing it.
That you might make them act like a chicken.
Yes. I think that, again, I think that's... it's funny because a lot of people have only really know about hypnotherapy and hypnosis through stage antics, and yeah, it's got its place, it's quite funny. Very often a stage hypnotist is dealing with somnambulants, which are people who are very, very susceptible to being induced into trance, into that imaginative state. But often you are dealing with people who want to be on stage, who want to act like a chicken and, eat a raw onion and have fun. I think, I've heard a wonderful quote was, if it was mind control, I'd be living on a private island.
Right. Fair enough. So let me tell you about my hypnosis background very quickly. I'm obviously not qualified to do any of it, and that's not what I'm suggesting. I've been the subject on many occasions. So I originally went to hypnosis to stop biting my nails. That was my thing. For 35 years, I bit my nails. Didn't matter what I did. And I went along, and the hypnotherapist, or the hypnotist at that point, she managed to get me to stop biting my nails very successfully due to the process that she did was a fear factor, in that I had to imagine somebody else's hands who I thought her hands were terrible. That was the way she did it. And therefore I had to imagine putting those hands into my mouth, of which I was like, ooh, I never want to do that. The bit that was really interesting for me at that point then is that person, and I won't say who it was, they then, for whatever reason, cleaned their hands up, and their hands became okay. And therefore it became all right for me to put my hands in my mouth again. So I went back to her, and she actually used a different method this time to stop me biting my nails, and it worked far better. The issue that I had with this particular person was that she was very expensive, and some hypnotists and hypnotherapists are extremely expensive, and she was one of those. So I knew in my head that if I kind of if I had a relapse effectively, then it wasn't going to work, because I couldn't afford to go back to her time and time again. So I actually have a £4 Audible book, which is Stop Biting Your Nails, which basically puts me into trance each time, but does it in a nice way rather than a fear factor way. And so if I feel like I'm starting to want to bite my nails again, I lay down for half an hour, have a little listen to this, and I'm all good again. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those kind of products have their place, and there are audio hypnotherapy products for smoking, for IBS, for all kinds of various problems, and also to sort of enhance your life, whether it is that performance enhancement in terms of whether you want to focus on your golf swing, or I think you can buy hypnotherapy to because you might get stressed out when you're more overexcited and dysregulated. So there are products out there which are very, very successful, and that kind of approach so the first person I did hypnotherapy in Bath, she was a smoker, and I gave her one session, and I wasn't trying to scare her about smoking. Everybody who smokes, there's a part of them that doesn't want to. And I did it in a much more sympathetic way than trying to scare somebody or make, aversion therapy. That sounds very much like aversion therapy, where you make something so revolting. It's a very good way of explaining that she made you imagine, that she suggested to you that you would be biting somebody's revolting nails. So it worked in that respect, but then, as you say, your imagination moved on.
It did. And I have to say, I feel like I've had other hypnotherapy, which we'll talk about after the break, and that I had other ways of doing it, which for me were far more successful, which I believe is the kind of the route that you go down. Something we haven't mentioned so far. Obviously, you have a practice in Bath. Tell us about the website, or tell us what the website is and how people can contact you if they did want to get in contact.
Yes, it's bathhypnotherapy.com. Yes, I've opened a practice in Bath. I have a place where therapy rooms where I can treat people in person, and I can treat people online. I've treated people in New Zealand, Washington DC, New York, via Zoom. So it's just that was something that I found kind of surprising, is that just how effective it is over the airwaves, over Zoom. So I'm also very cognizant, as the Americans might say, that hypnotherapy recordings work like you've, and they're very, very useful. I think that one of the most famous hypnotists in Britain, whose name completely escapes me,
would it be Paul McKenna?
It might be Paul McKenna, has made a fortune from writing books and recording CDs.
Yeah, no, and I've listened to some of those, and some of them worked very well, and some of them not so well, and that's always going to be the case. It's time for some news and all of that type of stuff. We're going to be back with David in the second hour. If you do have any questions for him, email studio@radiobath.com, or you can text your message to Bath followed by 80011. Bit of Noel Gallagher, another of your choices. Here we go. We're on our way now. Back with David after the break.
Remember what might have been.
Richard Beauvoisin here, right until midday today. My guest today is David Chaudoir. He is a hypnotherapist, and we're going to be talking all about hypnotherapy for the next hour or so as well. Any questions, email studio@radiobath.com. We're going to be talking now that is hypnotherapy complete quackery, or is there actually some science and evidence behind it all? So, David, is it quackery? Oh, hang on. Let me turn your microphone up. That always helps.
That might help.
There we go.
I'm back. No. It's evidence-based. And the first time there was a documentary on Horizon some time ago, which was one of the things that got me interested in pursuing hypnotherapy. I'd seen it many years before, and it's available on YouTube, and I'd recommend anybody who is fascinated by this question. It is science-based. There are people using it who are associated with the NHS. It's recognised by the NHS. You can't get it on the NHS yet, but there are treatments for things which we've been told that IBS is untreatable. We've been told that there's nothing that you can do in changing your diet. You can have medicine that will treat some of the symptoms, but actually there are studies in the United Kingdom and in America that absolutely prove that hypnotherapy is just as effective as taking medicine, and obviously it's side effect free and long lasting. And the fact that long lasting, it can be forever. You can have 2 sessions with a hypnotherapist and you're suffering from IBS, and it can go, and the symptoms can go, and you can live. And there are people who are so frightened of leaving their homes because they might have urgency whilst they're out and they've had terrible experiences, and for the first time in 10 or 15 years they can actually go out.
So the question I've got for you then is, how does it work? How can it stop IBS?
It doesn't stop IBS, it stops the symptoms.
Okay.
Very often, very often with something like IBS, it's rooted in stress. It's rooted in, and it can be a single stressful event. And with something like IBS, symptoms, it feeds on it. It's like a vicious circle that you can have IBS, you can have urgency, you can have cramps, and it makes you nervous, it makes you stressed, and that the cortisol floods into your system and it makes it worse, and it doesn't matter what you eat. And there was a consultant in Nottingham Hospital who started exploring it. He was called a quack by his peers, and what are you doing? And they all thought it was very, very funny. But he was getting results where medicine wouldn't work, where people had written off their lives. I'm going to have this forever. They've been told there's nothing medicine can do for you, and suddenly sitting in a chair and talking to somebody works. And that's the most extraordinary thing, that you can have somebody with psoriasis. You think it's a skin condition, and yet you can talk to somebody, you can give them a couple of sessions, and their psoriasis clears up. It's been plaguing them all their lives.
Yeah.
And not only actual medical conditions, you can also deal with things which are, for the person that has them, almost become or feel like a disability, whether that's stuttering, whether that's with ADHD, sort of emotional dysregulation, that you suddenly get into fight or flight mode, you suddenly get very upset over something, and it can stop. But the whole medical, there is huge amount of evidence that it is, in some instances, even better than conventional medicine. And people give birth without any painkillers on medicine. There was a man in Switzerland who had open heart surgery whilst the only anaesthetic he had was through hypnotherapy.
Blimey.
Yeah. I mean, in the 1950s, there was a very famous hypnotist called Dave Ellman. He would teach doctors how to give hypnotherapy as an anaesthesia. So he would, because anaesthesia was a new art at that stage, the chemicals weren't quite so strong, and he could put somebody within a minute into a situation where they could have root canal treatment. And he taught this to doctors and dentists because the medicine wasn't there yet. And obviously people sort of moving on from this subject, yes, somebody who goes to a dentist might be incredibly nervous, and somebody who might be thinking of flying, etc., etc. Yes, you can deal with phobias, but there is so much medical evidence that backs up this as being efficacious, effective, and medicine-free.
So I'm just thinking about the ADHD side of it. So I know a number of people with ADHD, and I'm trying to work out how hypnosis. So let's go for a case study. I'm ADHD. Let's say that I'm not, but let's say that I have traces of it, but I'm not. And I come to you. How are you going to help me?
Okay, so the first thing we'd do is we'd have a conversation. We would talk. Tell me what your problem is. How does this affect your life? And if you could wave a magic wand, how would it be better?
So I'm very forgetful. I'm given an instruction, and within seconds I've forgotten what that instruction is. And then they say to me the following day, have you done X, Y, or Z? And I go, do you know, I completely forgot.
Yes.
You know, and they get angry because they're like, oh, what was more important than the instruction I gave you? And just say, I just completely forgot.
Yes. And that's a common thing. In my mother, whenever she forgets anything, whenever she puts her glasses down or can't find the remote control for the TV or the address book or whatever it is, we'll pray to St. Anthony.
Okay.
And in a way, that's kind of hypnotic as well, because you're kind of abdicating responsibility in some respects. And my mother will then say, oh, half an hour later, oh, look, I found it. St. Anthony must have helped me find it. And hypnotherapy is also that sort of talking to your unconscious mind. It's the part of you that regulates that. So when you put something, it's unlikely that you have absolutely no recollection that you've lost something or you've forgotten something. You actually can talk to your unconscious mind, who will know where that thing is, and that you can, if you want, send yourself into a relaxed state, ask where that thing is, and later be shown it. The other day, my mother lost her address book for the umpteenth time, and I knew that I had seen it at some stage during the day. I closed my eyes. One of the systems to induct yourself into that state of relaxation did this counting backwards method, and I walked outside and I put my hand on it straight away. It was hidden under something else. And it's like, that's why I say it's the closest thing to magic, that you think, how did I know that? I must have seen it. It must have been in my mind. And I was given access to it via hypnosis.
Okay, so I've got a question for you, and that is, you are a hypnotherapist, okay? Can you put yourself under?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. You can develop strategies, and you can develop techniques, and absolutely you can hypnotize yourself and make changes within yourself. So, and you can do this hypnotherapy does sound like, as I said before, because of the media, it's kind of misrepresentation of it, that it's, somebody controlling you. It's the ability to give access to your unconscious, things that control your emotions, things that control things that you don't think are accessible to you, your reasoning mind. And I'm going to do my ADHD thing and say, Richard, where was I? What was the question?
Do you know what? It's all good. We're going to have a break from music anyway. So it doesn't. We're going to talk lots more about this. I've got loads more on my own personal journey, which I'd love you to analyse a bit more as well. Now, a couple of days ago, I interviewed a Canadian country singer called Savannah Jade. That interview is going to be broadcast in a couple of weeks, which I'm really looking forward to listening back to as well. But this was her track. It's called I Don't Have Exes. Love that track. That's Sapphire by Ed Sheeran. Richard Beauvoisin here on Radio Bath. The story to tell today is David... Oh, I've forgotten that.
Chaudoir.
Chaudoir. Do you know, the bit that went in my head is, which pronunciation of show is it? I interviewed a chap called Oran Murphy yesterday. He was an Irish singer. He's a folk singer. He supported Mumford & Sons recently, 20,000 people. But his name is spelled Odrahan.
Marvellous.
And
Gaelic.
therefore, in Irish, the D and the H are silent, so it's Oran.
Right.
And I spent the first 5 minutes doing my Irish accent. I'm listening back now thinking, oh man. But if you want to listen to that, it's coming up in a couple of weeks while Gerard is covering me whilst I'm away. Anyway, we're talking about hypnotherapy today. Now, the second half of my hypnosis journey. So I've done the hypnosis regarding biting my nails. I also went to see Mark Jones, previous guest on here, about hypnotherapy. And I went to him. My original reasons for going to him is that I've always had a little bit of padding around my six-pack for years. And it doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm a dance professional. I should be much slimmer and fitter than I currently am. And my basic principle is I like wine. And that's really the reason why I've got more than I probably should have. But I went in for that. And we spent 8 sessions going through a variety of things. And he did the hypnosis for me each time. And actually, it was more about my stress levels. And I have to say, I went to see him and he changed my life in an enormous positive way. And I messaged him very recently because, I treat him as a friend now because I don't see him anymore. And he was brilliant with me. And we spoke about happiness levels and a variety of things. So when people come to you, are they expecting, like, they walk in the door, lay on a bed, that's it, they're in a trance? Or kind of what happens in your normal sessions then?
So, first of all, we speak. We talk about what's the problem, what is the limiting belief, what is the behaviour that you wish to change. And as I said before, if you could wave a magic wand, what would your life look like? And it's always best to deal with problems that you can focus in on and create solutions to. So something like, I'm assuming that he possibly talked to you about how stress cortisol affects your stomach, and how cortisol is created during anxiety, and it actually makes you put weight on. So I'm convinced he probably did something like that. So that is something that I would do. I'd look at your stress levels. I would look at why you're getting stressed. I'd look at, aside from talk therapy, you actually want to say what is the trigger. What is the actual emotional trigger that is causing this? And work on that and see if we can alleviate that through hypnotherapy. And then if it is something like you're I don't believe in addiction. I don't believe in people being addicted to cigarettes. I believe in habits. So if you're habitually drinking wine, why are you habitually drinking wine? Is it because you need that to relax? And think about a solution to that. Think about how we can get you to relax easily, naturally, and without the help of alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still drinking wine now. I also feel now, and again, this is what Mark helped me do enormously, is that I don't feel stressed anymore. People often say to me, how do I cope with everything that I do? And I do an enormous amount. And since his sessions, I don't feel stressed. I feel pressure, but pressure's okay. And I feel almost it's a privilege to have these pressures because I perform on stage most nights, and that's fine. I'm all good with that. But I don't feel stressed about it anymore, and that definitely has helped me.
Absolutely, and that's something which is huge for people. And we live in a very stressful environment. People, as like yourself, have got many, they're juggling different plates in the air, and it's very easy to deal with stress. There is the good side of stress. There's the side of stress which I'm sure you feel, which is just that little kick up the butt to get you on stage. It's that slightly anxious period just before you talk, and you need that. And then your regulation kicks in. You are talking, you're doing your thing, and you relax. But there are some people who couldn't even get up onto that stage. And I think the thing is that whatever you discussed, he talked about and presumably alleviated areas in your life that you didn't have the control of your stress over. And the wonderful thing about hypnotherapy is it can target very, very specific things that wind you up, that you find difficult to deal with, things that you might even learnt, triggers that you're not even aware that your unconscious mind is finding. And that just means talking. That means finding it out, doing this discovery call, talking about it. And very often if you have somebody who's got something which is slightly vaguer, that you deal with something, and then something else will come up. Something else will be revealed that you can then treat as well.
Yeah. No, I found it an enlightening thing. We did 8 sessions. How many sessions would you say would be normal as such for people?
I would like to book people in between 2 and 4, depending on what the situation is, because in the same way that, let's say, you can treat somebody with IBS and they have not been able to go anywhere. They feel stressed, they feel anxious about going out, having that freedom again. And you can talk to them, you can have one session, and it, again, magic. They are not quite cured, but they are able to go out again. And then they can very often feel guilt that the last 10 years that their family hasn't been able to fly, hasn't been able to go anywhere because they were so worried about where was the local facilities, where were the loos, things like that. So very often one thing will reveal another, in the same way that talking therapies reveal one thing. It's like peeling an onion, but it's very much more targeted.
And again, I've got a question for you coming up shortly as well, but the other thing that Mark used to say to me is, he said, I'm not a counsellor. If you have history with your mum and your dad or something back in the past, I'm not that person for you. Are you similar in that regards?
Yes, because talking therapies are one thing, and obviously sort of relationships, if you want to go back into the past and explore that kind of thing, that's where you probably want to do it. But also you can learn things from your parents, which are sort of negative beliefs, whether it's your mother screaming when she sees a spider, which sort of instills a fear of spiders in your unconscious mind, and your amygdala lights up. You can deal with those kind of things. But if it's, I feel guilt that I hate my mother, you probably want to talk to somebody about it.
Okay, now questions coming from Richard, regular listener. Hello, Richard. He says, should hypnotherapy last forever, or do you need to have refresher sessions? Also, when put into hypnosis, can you fall too far into deep sleep so the therapy isn't absorbed, for want of a better expression?
I think, again, you'll have to remind me of the question because my ADHD brain has gone off on a tangent already, but sleep isn't sleep. Sleep isn't your
So being
eyes.
in a trance isn't
Yes.
the same?
It's just a state of relaxation. It's like when you are reading a book, that the words disappear, that you're in that imaginary world. It's this sort of state of focused relaxation. So part of your mind is listening to the hypnotherapist guiding you, and part of your brain is doing what we all have, monkey brains that are leaping around, thinking of things, showing us images, thoughts that are leaping into our mind. So these things can both run concurrently, but you don't actually go into sleep. And talking about it forever, yes, I know a friend, a hypnotherapist, who hypnotized somebody 10 years ago and said a key word, and they reacted exactly how he wanted to. He also, and because I'm quite new into the game, I'm relying on other people's anecdotes, but somebody he met after 2 years of having hypnotized him, and he said, I'm still losing weight. And it was still the weight loss, the weight was still coming off of him, and he'd said, can we just stop it here now? So they stopped it. So yes, it can be a permanent thing. And I did one session with my father's carer with smoking. She spent £5,000 or £4,500 a year on cigarettes. She'd smoked for 35 years, and in one session she hasn't smoked since, and that was 6 months ago.
Yeah. No, it is an incredible. It does have results. I say, I am part of those results. I haven't bitten my nails now for 15 years properly. There was one period where, and this may resonate, where I did start biting my nails again, and I knew exactly why, and it was stress.
Yes.
I then went and had a second set of the theory and, some more hypnosis. Although she did turn around to me and say that I was a hypno junkie.
Yes.
And that I enjoyed it way too much. Is that a bad thing necessarily?
No, not at all. And it's a very enjoyable experience, especially when you see and feel changes. They're not sometimes immediately apparent. I've had hypnotherapy on multiple times during my training and since with colleagues, and I love it. I absolutely love it. It is one of my friends can make me laugh spontaneously, and it's a wonderful, joyful experience to be laughing like a loon.
It's amazing, isn't it? Now you've chosen the next track. We're going slightly stranger now, shall we say? So this is Little Fluffy Clouds. Why this track?
I grew up in sort of my musical education when I was at art school. The whole dance scene was happening, and this was a man called Alex Patterson, and he mixed dance music with samples, and it's just a wonderful, dreamy track.
It is. So here we go. This is Little Fluffy Clouds by The Orb, starting off with a cockerel. Why wouldn't you? Back with David. Quickfire round coming up shortly.
What were the skies like when you were young?
They went on forever. We lived in Arizona, and the skies always had little fluffy clouds in them, and they were long and clear, and there were lots of stars at night. And when it would rain, it would all turn. They were beautiful, the most beautiful skies, as a matter of fact. The sunsets were purple and red and yellow and on fire, and the clouds would catch the colors everywhere. That's neat, because I used to look at them all the time when I was little. You don't see that.
And we're back. Sorry, my microphone's just going all over the place. It's having one of those weird moments of just drifting all over the place. Anyway, back now with David Chaudoir, who is my guest today. We've been talking all about hypnotherapy and being a hypnotist. It's a quick fire round now, David. How do you feel about this?
Oh, well, I'm getting slightly nervous, actually,
Are you?
Richard, yes.
Okay, you should be nervous.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got the lamp pointing in my face. I'm strapped to the chair.
You have no idea what's going on. Do you know, very strangely, I did a cricket interview with somebody recently, a cricket umpire. I love cricket, a cricket badger. And we do an Ask the Umpire section. And then I had an email from somebody that was all about Bitcoin. And I was like, well, it's obviously just spam. But no, apparently it's a CEO that lives in the western part of America that's got thousands and thousands of followers that wants to come on the show.
Wow.
And he listened to the actual show. So you never know who's listening to the stuff that we're talking about now. It's quite bizarre.
All over the world.
All over the world. I know. It scares me too, if I'm honest with you. But there we go. Right, quick fire round then. So you can ask these as long or as short as you like. We'll see where we go. Okay, so first question is, and I have told you this one, what is your favourite ice cream?
I will say straight away pistachio. I went to Baskin-Robbins 31 flavours in Leicester Square in the 70s, and I think I plumbed for bubblegum flavour, and I learnt my lesson.
So, do you know pistachio is quite a popular answer?
It is.
I need to have some pistachio. I don't think I've ever eaten pistachio ice cream.
Well, in Bath there is a... If you walk through Bath through the streets in the evening on the Sunday when pretty much nothing else is open, there is a very good, what do they call it? Gelato. The Italians call it gelato. There's a lovely gelato ice cream shop where you can spend a ruddy fortune, and they do a very nice pistachio.
I will try and find that place. Are you tidy or messy?
I have ADHD. I know it's the neurodivergence or diversity or whatever you want it du jour, but I think it was Stanley Kubrick who said anybody who has a tidy desk is mentally ill. Okay.
So I'm guessing by that answer you don't have a tidy desk then.
No, I have a very fruitfully disorganized mess.
But do you know where everything is yourself?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, but anybody else looking at it thinks, how are you doing that?
I think my brother, who is the complete opposite of me, has kittens every time he sees my desk.
Right. Okay. So you are a messy person then.
I am.
And I love the fact you're proud of it as well. You're like, I am messy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love or hate roller coasters?
I've never been on a roller coaster.
Oh, okay.
No, I've never been on a roller coaster. My friend's son is autistic. He's not, he is on the spectrum. He had terrible trouble ever sitting still, and from a very early age that is all he wanted to do, was go on roller coasters, design roller coasters. I haven't caught up with his father for a very long time, but I'd be very interested to see where it went, and I hope, like we all learn, do what you enjoy. I think he would be in seventh heaven if he was permanently on a roller coaster.
But not for you?
Not for me. I've never tried it. It's not something that... do you know what? I don't like queuing.
Okay.
I went to Disneyland and took my children once, and not in America, just the European one, and I thought, really? 2-minute ride for an hour's queue?
Yeah.
No.
My favourite, and I've said this a few times, my daughter, who's now nearly 10, when she was, I think, 7, we went on the roller coaster at at Chessington, the vampire ride. And on that occasion, it was a busy day, and we queued for, nearly 2 hours. And she got to the end of it, and it's not the most exciting ride in the world. And she got to the end of the actual ride, and she went, we queued 2 hours for that. However, I love roller coasters, and I have queued equally 2 hours for 30 seconds, and it's been worth every second.
Absolutely. And I think that it feeds into, if you do have ADHD, I think that it perfectly illustrates that need for adrenaline, that need for that sort of anxiety stroke thrill.
Yeah. No, I love them. Right. Do you hang your toilet roll over the top or behind the back? So is it like a waterfall or a mullet?
Good Lord.
I know.
I don't actually hang a toilet roll.
Do you not?
No, I have a God, does anybody really need to know this?
Yeah, we're going there.
We're going deep. No, they are on a, what would you call it, kitchen roll dispenser?
Yeah, a stand type thing. Yeah.
I remember as a child going to somebody's house and the toilet roll was hidden under a doll, a Spanish doll, and it was hidden under her skirts. The kitschiest thing I've ever seen in my life.
The weird thing is, that skirt will have been picked up by dirty hands many times.
Godfathers,
Just think about that thought process. Yeah. If you do that scenario, please stop.
No.
That's all I'm ever going to request. Right. Do you eat your chocolate from the fridge or from the cupboard?
I don't eat chocolate.
Okay.
I hate I used to hate refrigerated chocolate. I think that, here's how you should eat chocolate.
Go on, tell me how we should eat chocolate.
Okay, so if you have a chocolate minstrel, you should put it under your tongue until the layer comes off.
I'm salivating now, by the way, thinking about chocolate minstrel.
And then within that crispy casing, the chocolate will melt and melt and melt. You will then suck the casing, the sugary shell off the top, and you will have a perfectly melted chocolate.
I really want to eat minstrels now. I really do. I don't eat chocolate very often, but that's making me want to eat minstrels.
Well, if anybody is eating too many minstrels, get in touch.
Come and see you.
Yeah.
Lovely. Do you make your bed in the morning?
Yes, I do.
Why do you make your bed in the morning?
Because I sometimes I sometimes have Zoom meetings from that room, and although you've got the magic out defocus button, I don't know, maybe they can see an unmade bed in the background.
Fair enough. And follow-up question to that is, apart from the pillows, do you have any extra cushions on your bed?
I have one orthopedic neck cushion or something like that I invested in. I'm not sure whether I used to, because when I used to work on Newsnight, you were under pressure, so much pressure to get stuff done, and I would be sitting in this state of focused designing for hours on end that I would finish the shift and have my left shoulder would be pretty much rigid from the stress or pressure, whatever you want to call it. So I thought maybe I should try and do something with that.
Okay, so you've got an extra one, which is absolutely fine. What is your favourite breakfast?
I don't eat breakfast.
Don't eat breakfast? Why don't you eat breakfast?
I drink a lot of coffee, and I prefer coffee, and I don't know. I don't know why I eat breakfast. Why I don't eat breakfast. I think that, anybody who has done keto, anybody who's tried to... I think that we're very used to having 3 meals a day and more, and snacking in between, and I actually think that this is a large part of why we are obese. And I believe in the whole sort of paleo, we are still pretty much cave men and women, and despite the fact that we drive cars, etc., and that's actually, in terms of hypnotherapy, it kind of makes sense, the way we behave sometimes and develop beliefs and, things. If you look at sort of the idea of evolutionary psychology, we would be hunted or hunt food, and we would gorge ourselves, and then we wouldn't have food for maybe a couple of days or something like that. And I actually think some of the possible causes of cancer, stomach cancer, that kind of thing, might be from our living with overabundance. And I think that not eating, fasting, getting used to not being terrified by hunger. We shouldn't be afraid of hunger. There's food on every supermarket shelf. Yep. We should get used to hunger, because actually you go into something called, and I can't remember the name, basically your fat eats itself.
Yeah, and that's what the keto diet is based on, isn't it? So eating over an 8-hour period and fasting for 16 hours is the basic principle behind keto. Which, strangely, I don't have that diet, but I kind of strangely do that diet. Because I've normally eaten all my food by 6 o'clock in the evening, and but I have my breakfast slightly too early at about 8:30, 9 o'clock. So I just need to shrink that period a little bit more.
Shrink the window down.
And then there we go. Maybe that's all I need to do to change and get rid of that last little bit that I have. If you had to do it, what would be your go-to karaoke song?
Oh my God, I've only ever sung one karaoke song. Ever in my entire life, and I think that I realised it probably wasn't a good idea.
Okay, what was it?
And God, it was something stupid like an Elvis song.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly, and doing all the sort of Vegas drawling and being silly and stuff like that. I don't know, Richard. I'm not.
That's right. When I did it, it terrified me.
Yes.
I can be on the radio, I'm on stage all the time. Doing karaoke terrified me.
Yes.
I did it, and I did all my breathing exercises, which I do, and all of those different bits and pieces. But I was still the most nervous that I've ever been doing that. I've interviewed very famous people, not bothered in the slightest, standing up singing. Yeah, literally hands were shaking. Had to hold the microphone in my left hand, push it against my chin to stop my hand literally from shaking all over the place.
I think
very
that
bizarre.
It doesn't help that I cannot hold a note and I'm completely tone deaf.
So maybe the fact you've only done it once is a blessing to all.
Absolutely.
Favourite TV programme or film?
Oh God, now you're talking. I think, as I mentioned Kubrick earlier, I studied Kubrick when I was at film school and art school and was obsessed with him. But without boring your listeners, I like too many films to be able to narrow it down to one. To one,
fair enough. Yeah. But you are a film buff.
Yeah, I mean, I watch too many films. I watch a film probably a day or a film a night. And I used to write films and I've written features and things like that.
Can people see your films, I assume?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple on...
Give them a plug.
Online. No, it's funny because it's kind of a part of my life that is now over.
Okay.
And I enjoyed it very much. Breaking into the film industry is a very difficult task in the United Kingdom. We have a very small industry. It's pretty much controlled by American money and therefore American production. I loved what I did, and I loved working with actors. I like being behind the camera. I love the fact that you can see something in your head, you can write dialogue, and I'm kind of saddened by a lot of films that... I think the film industry at the moment is in a bit of a pickle in terms of the American Marvel comics.
Yeah, there's a lot of franchise films out there at the moment. Right, 2 questions to go then. We've got about 30 seconds. So if you came back in your next life as an animal, which one would you be and why?
I would be a British short hair, like my cat Hodge, who is the fattest, most lovable mog and spoilt brat ever.
Beautiful. And your last question, where is your happy place?
I think on my patio in the garden.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming in today. Can you remind everybody, if they want to get in contact with you, how they can?
Yes, my website is bathhypnotherapy.com. That's bathhypnotherapy.com, and I'm available on Zoom, and I have a therapy room in the centre of Bath.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for coming in. I hope you've enjoyed it.
I have enjoyed it very much. Thank you so much, Richard, for having me.
My pleasure. Next week, Heather Garbett is my guest. We're talking all about love next week. How to get into love, how to stay in love, and if it goes wrong, how to get out of love. So that's next week between 10 and 12. Have a fantastic week.